All right, so this next one, we're going to look at why species aren't breeding. And we call these reproductive barriers. They're not a single species if they don't breed. So what are those barriers? And there's two different major types. There's prezygotic and postzygotic. If you remember, a zygote is a fertilized egg. So prezygotic means that it happens before egg and sperm come together. And postzygotic means that it occurs after the zygote is actually made and then something happens. All right, so let's look at the different types here. And this is spelled out to give you kind of the lists. And then let's go through each one of these and look at what those mean. So prezygotic, we're talking about habitat isolation. So they don't live together, can't breed from a distance. Some of you are thinking, well, I'm gonna have phone sex. If you can have kids that way, let me know. That's a Nobel Prize. But so here we have a fly, and they're in the same area, close to each other, but they're not breeding because of their food source. The one on the bottom are actually going after introduced blueberries, and the one on the top are actually going, I think those are cherries or apples. I forget. I think they're apples. But anyway, so what we're looking at is that these organisms are not in the same areas of each other. And so when they go to look for a mate, they're not finding each other. So habitat isolation often causes speciation, where you can get a new species. Behavior isolation, that was the one I was mentioned before. And a good example was the eastern and western meadowlarks. It turns out that they overlap in the middle of the United States. They didn't used to. And because we planted trees across the United States, they've kind of spread, and now they kind of range in the same spot. What we're finding is that for them to mate is the song, and the songs aren't the same. So a western meadowlark looking for a mate, a female, if you bring in fly in one from New York, it has that New York accent, and that female's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Your song's not right, and vice versa. We have found, though, there are some hybrids, and it's in this one little area in the middle of the United States. And what happens is the bird will actually learn both songs. And the reason they learn the song, they're learning them when they're in the egg and when they're in the nest. Well, they can hear their neighbors singing. And because they're in this, kind of these fields where both of them are breeding, the kids are learning both songs. And so if they're trying one song and it doesn't work, they'll flip to the other song, which is kind of unusual. But what they're finding is those hybrids aren't moving anywhere. It's only in those little places where they hear them both as kids. So they're still considered two species. Over on the right is the example that the book uses, and that's blue-footed boobies. And they have this real kind of convoluted dance they do. And if you don't do the dance right, you don't get to have sex. You don't get to have kids. Temporal isolation. These are two species that are found in the same area, but different parts of the year. So temporal is time. So they really are not going to breed at the same time, and they're not really found in the same area at the same time. They do overlap, but when one is looking for mates, the other is not really interested. So these are types of skunks. Mechanical isolation, these are in snails. So up on the top, you can see the snails are mating. Their heads will go by each other, and then they'll stick out their little genital structures. Down on the bottom here are two snails that are different species. And it turns out, like we're right-handed and left-handed, snails' shells are right and left twisted. And one snail, if it's twisted the opposite direction, what happens is when their heads go by each other, the genital pores where they would be sticking their structures are on the wrong sides. They don't match up. And so physically, even though they can go through the breeding ritual, they cannot physically impregnate each other. So mechanical isolation. And then gametic isolation has to do with maybe the sperm and egg. So here we have locally, and the color is off on this picture, I'm not quite sure. We can see a bunch of smaller purple sea urchins on the outside, and the one in the middle is supposed to be what is our red sea urchin. That one looks awfully orange in this picture to me, but anyway, both of these species are locally in our ocean. The purple sea urchins tend to be a little more shallow. Red urchins seem to be a little deeper in the water. I've seen them both in the same tide pools. And what happens is they don't impregnate each other because of proteins that are on the sperm and egg. They don't adhere right to the other species. So that would be where egg and sperm gametes don't come together. All right, the post-zygotic three are hybrid sterility. The idea is we have a mule and a donkey and a horse, and we end up with a mule. And the mule is sterile. What we're finding is actually there are some mules that can have children, very far between. So they were bred this way, and this is more kind of artificial selection. But the idea was to get a sturdier animal for carrying trail supplies. And again, they can't breed. Hybrid inviability, this is one of the Insantina salamanders, and what we're finding is when some of the two species that we're talking about try to breed, they can have children, but the children are not very healthy, and they don't tend to survive. So very high mortality rate in the hybrid. And the last one is hybrid breakdown. So over multiple generations, it just breaks down. And so this is actually rice. What you're seeing, different types of rice, cultivated rice that we use obviously for food. And there are some recessive traits that are found in these rice. And what they found out is if they have multiple types of this of recessive genes, they just don't survive after 2 or 3 generations. So it's called hybrid breakdown. They will survive. They can even have kids, but typically after 2 or 3 generations, it disappears. And that is the different reproductive barriers.